on YouTube and recorded for those of you who couldn't make it here early on. My name's Nate. I'm your host. We've got Sean and Kay here. How you guys doing? How you doing, Sean?
Yeah, good. A little bit under the weather this week, so I'll be doing much less talking.
I
That's
got
probably
you.
not possible. Yeah, no, not too bad, thanks.
Glad you could still make it, Sean. How about you, Kay? How you feeling today?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be back. Good to be with you guys and doing the stuff that we love.
Absolutely, Sean. I know you won't let sickness get in the way of a few good
Never.
charts. Never,
No,
never.
charts over sickness all day long.
Awesome. All right, quick disclaimer up front. We are not financial professionals. This is not financial advice, and nor should it be taken that way. This information is purely entertainment and educational in nature and should be used that way. But I hope you do enjoy the entertainment value we bring. And yeah, we're passionate about the charts that we're looking at and trading. So hopefully you feel that and enjoy this week in and week out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate that. And smash the like button as well. And yeah, let's get things rolling. I'm going to get these charts pulled up. We'll jump right into it. This week is going to be a good week. I'm feeling it. Last week, I missed out on a lot of trading, but looks like it was decent
So
week. How'd you guys feel?
every single week you go traveling, we have market doesn't do well. So hopefully you're not traveling next week.
I'm not traveling next week.
All right, so we'll have a green week, 100%.
Well, wait, am I missing something? The S&P was up 1% last week, 1.36, right? And
Yeah.
the Qs were up almost
Yeah.
3%. Did it not feel that way?
Didn't feel like look if you look at the Tesla. So energy stocks all in red. You see Tesla pretty much. I mean, semiconductor had a good week, right? I mean, 2 weeks in a row we saw AMD was up 17%. The previous week we had almost 9%. Nvidia leading the way.
10% here, yeah.
Yeah, it still feels like it was like a mixed bag. But yeah, I mean, overall, you would be happy if you were in Apple, Microsoft, those trades.
Yeah,
I
what
think
do
it
you
was a
think,
bit of
Sean?
a choppy week because Monday we gapped up a little bit, and then it was just chop, chop, chop throughout the week, up, down, up, down. Obviously, Jerome Powell spoke on Thursday, and then we had 2% day on the QQQ on Friday. So most of those 3% gains were on Friday. So Friday was a good day. Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, it was a big comeback day on Friday. Otherwise, the week was brutal. Yep, got it. Well, it's interesting because the way it ended up, SPY was up 1.36%. Qs were up almost 3%, 2.9. The diamonds, DIA and IWM, not so great. Diamonds were only up 0.7, and IWM for the small caps down 3%. So we will look at that here in a second. Actually, I'll just jump right to it. Why not? What am I waiting for? There it is. Bitcoin having a massive rally the last couple of weeks. You guys, it's up 123% on the year. Like, that's insane. That's such an insane number.
That's crazy.
And then we've got volatility across, just coming down another almost 5%. So despite the week not feeling great, by and large, I think people probably had some positive returns. I don't like small caps just getting beat up down 3% on the year, right? That's not good. They can't get out of the mud, it seems like. And then, yeah, go ahead, Kay.
And you can see the reason you feel that way is because even the fear and greed, right? We were last week 41, this week we are 42. So pretty flat out, really not much happened. If you look at the other, the VIX went down as well, but pretty flat. There wasn't like much happening. 1 day gap up, next day gap down, pretty flat for the week.
Yeah, I feel like I'm wearing this trading triangle hat right here.
Yes,
by the
you
way.
are. Yes, you are.
I'm going to just rock that. I'm going to own it. It looks good, I think. All right. So moving along, we've got earnings coming up. A lot of big moves off of earnings these last few weeks. Sorry, I couldn't help myself there. Personally, from a retail side, right, we've got Target, Home Depot, Walmart, Macy's. Like, retail just jumps off the page. TJ Maxx even. What else is? I see names that I know you guys are going to talk to, but I'll just tee it up. What are you looking at, Sean?
For me, looking at Fisker, obviously they delayed their earnings to this week, so be interesting to see what they actually do from that. Xpeng on Wednesday before the open, and Alibaba as well, actually on before the open on Thursday. So those are the three I'm looking at mainly. But obviously, yeah, the retail sector, as you say, is a big one, that's for sure.
How about you, Kay?
I think I'm looking at Monday on Monday.
Did there?
I'm looking at monday.com on Monday before open. It's a software SaaS company doing pretty well. The other one I'm looking at is also Palo Alto on Wednesday after close. Right, you pretty much knew that one as well. That's pretty much it for me. Not a very exciting week. I know you guys already covered the ones that we talked about. So yeah, those are the only ones I'm looking at personally.
I'm glad you mentioned Palo Alto because CrowdStrike just had decent earnings, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
that could be interesting to see how they do. Big fan of both of those names for the longer term. All right, well, let's look at charts. And Sean, you actually put up some interesting charts this week, I thought. So I'm going to hand it over to you for SPY here first.
Yeah, so you can see the Friday that we were talking about reflected really quite nicely on this chart. Really, really big kind of candle there, big bounce off of that kind of 50 moving average. And that's kind of really what I wanted to talk about on this chart. And that's kind of it really, is the really kind of solid bounce off of that 50 moving average. And you can see throughout the chart, it doesn't really respect it that much. So it's nice to see it kind of coming in play. And you can see the 450 level. It's not the most cemented resistance, but it is a good psychological level in my opinion. And the last thing I'll touch on is the 20 moving average. If we can get that back coming through the 50 in the weeks to come, I think that'll be good for the kind of run into the end of the year, really. But that's it for me, really, on SPY.
I do want to make a quick point here. So I don't know what's going on next week, but keep in mind, it's the put to call ratio is varying a lot for SPY. So you have because it's a daily options close every single day for SPY and QQQ. On 17th, the put to call is 2.19, whereas the day before is 1.26, the day before is 2.27. So, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. So it's a very awkward kind of a week. I have generally not seen this kind of a data point. You generally tend to see if it's 1.2, 1.5, 1.8 like that. But then suddenly, you have 2.19 going from 1.26. So a lot of hedging going on Friday next week. I wonder what's happening next Friday.
We do have CPI and PPI this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. But that comes on Wednesday. So Wednesday there is 2.27, but then it drops Thursday and then again goes back up to 2/2 on Friday. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, interesting. I do notice the higher high here. That's the big thing for me. We're making lower highs repeatedly, so I do like to see that after that. Even before the big launch on Friday, Thursday, we got there, right? So, that was good to see when I went back and reviewed the charts. And I think I like what you've noted there with that 20-day moving up. Hopefully we see some of that action and close out the year strong. That's where my head's at anyways.
We've also ignored the reverse head and shoulders as well.
I do.
Where we've kind of gone through it. So that's now no longer a thing unless you've got weird shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the weird shoulders out there. All right. What's up with the Qs? This looks promising as well.
Yeah. So the Qs, I'd like to talk to here just from a pure basic kind of learning point of view, really. So this is a trend line breakout textbook, in my opinion. We kind of break out of the trend line, which is obviously the blue lines coming down, and we come back down, really clean touch of it, thereabouts, and a bounce straight back up to your next kind of resistance point. I've actually noted at 380.80. So that's kind of what I want to point to here. This is what you want to see for a trend line breakout. Now, you know me, I like my breakouts, and I really want to kind of touch on it this week because this is exactly what I see. But generally, momentum for the Qs, the technology at the moment is running the market. In my opinion, it's really running the market. But yeah, that's all I've really got to say on that, to be honest. And still lots of room to move on the RSI as well.
So I got to tell you, when I looked at this chart, I had my chart of the Qs up side by side with it, and I was like, all right, what'd Sean post? I want to see how it looks in mine. This is the exact same notations. Like we've been hanging out and doing this long enough now, where I have the exact same 2 price targets, to the upside, and the same, trend break line and everything. I mean, it's the exact same. I only have RSI showing. It's funny. So, anyways, I think that's a good sign overall that we are in lockstep like that. Kate, does the options language?
It's a very interesting. So the put to call on 11/10, which was Friday, was 1.96. On 11/13, it's 3.08. So you have 36,000. Let's say 37,000 call side, and you have 114,000 on the put side. And then it drops on 14, 15, 16, 17. It just drops to 1.5, 1.6, and so on. So be careful on 11/13. There's a lot more put options on that day.
There you go. Trade wisely and trade with that information.
Which is Monday, by the way, tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, keeping it rolling. I noticed you got an ETF for us. One of my favorites, the VanEck Semiconductor ETF here, Sean.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if you were going to bring this up this week,
I was.
judging the
I'm
move
not.
it has.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
really? I'm
I'm
so
just gonna
sorry.
say this. Hold on. I gotta interrupt. I was, and I didn't want to say that twice, but it was. I saw your other chart. It's the exact same chart, and I was thinking this week maybe I'll just do ETFs, and then here you had this,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right, I'll go and find stocks to do this week. But anyway, sorry to interrupt, Sean. Back to you.
Well, sorry about that. I got in there early, didn't I? So we'll start actually with the green highlighted area. And you can see a really nice kind of consolidation around that area, and a really nice push off of that 200 moving average, which is the red line down the bottom. And also coinciding with the trend line, the channel trend coming down, bouncing off that level as well, which I think I noted out a few weeks ago. Obviously, didn't think much of it then, but it feels good now. But we pushed straight
Absolutely.
up to the top of the trend line, and like the Qs, obviously came up, retested it, bounced straight up to 157. Now, what I've actually got here is a possible short move, just for the short term. So if we continue this momentum up to 161, I would be looking to play a short just for a breather, basically, because you can see how quickly the RSI has moved up, how quickly the actual sector has moved up as a whole. Just a quick short of 2% from 161 down to 157.60. You can see where that red arrow is. That's what I mean by that. And the yellow arrow, the yellow line is basically the percentage I'm talking about. So that's kind of my thoughts on this one. If you see anything different, whether you think that's a good idea or if you think that's a terrible idea. But I guess momentum in this type of area, especially with CPI, PPI, as we were saying, could take this anywhere. But the RSI is also kind of heating up nicely as well.
Yeah, Kay, I see some stuff on this chart, but do you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I just have a comment to make, and I think most of these big candles are driven by your strong performance in AMD. For last 2 weeks, you had Broadcom good performance, you have Nvidia good performance last week, so those are actually adding to this semiconductor ETF. Those are the only my personal comments on that. I mean, from an option standpoint, it's very bullish next week. It's 0.83. So over 100,000 call options versus just 84,000, put options. So definitely looking more bullish on the semiconductor side.
Yep, I like it. So SMH, it's doing exactly what it does to me all the time. I get a little bit bearish on it, and it takes off, and that's exactly what happened recently. I was like, all right, I think semiconductors are going to cool off a little bit, maybe walk the bottom of that trend line, and then they did the exact opposite. Good news is I'm long-term holder, so I'm benefiting from that. That's good. But yeah, I like this. Sean, again, similar levels, and I'd be looking for that 157.60 to be broken for SMH, but we might get a little bit of a consolidation here, or a little bit of a pullback first, right? And hoping that holds up above 155, just kind of a nice, easy level there. You see before when we pushed up to the 157.60 level and it pulled back, 155 is showing up with some support, and that would give it time to let that 20-day moving average cross above the 50. So yeah, that's where my head's at on this. I definitely like you pulling up the chart, and then I think the RSI being where it's at does give some room for some pause. I think you mentioned. So overall, a great move and positive, right? If we can get semis and tech to lead the way. Yeah, I like the way the year close.
I think it's worth noting as well, Nvidia earnings will be not next week, but the week after.
2
Yeah.
weeks.
So that could be another potential catalyst for this particular stock. I'd be looking for the move before that, if I'm honest, this week, the move I was talking about. But
Yep.
yeah, I appreciate all your points.
Good stuff. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, so this one is PayPal, as you can see. I don't normally bring this one up, but I really like this one in terms of the way it's hugging the 20 moving average, which is the yellow line, as you can see. One, we've broken that trend line, as you can see, coming down back from August this year. Kind of a heavily negative trend, really, for PayPal. It's not been great, and obviously the company's been spoken about quite a lot. Are they doing well? Are they really accelerating their growth, etc.? I'm not going to touch on that too much, but they had a positive quarter, as you can see, a little bit of a gap up, probably 7 days ago, something like that. Yeah, 7 days ago, bit of a gap up, broke up above the trend line, as I spoke about, and we've been kind of trailing down with it, and we're kind of curling up with the potential new trend line that I've drawn there as well, kind of going upwards. my ultimate goal here would be looking to break the 50, get through the 50, retest the 50, and move up to the 200.
Right.
But if you wanted to play kind of a shorter day trade, it's a bit more risky, of course. You can have a nice little tight stop loss around 53, and then obviously have that move up to the 50, and obviously see what happens then. But you would have made your money, made your move potentially in that gap there. But really, for a long term perspective, for a swing trade opportunities, what I'm really looking at here is that break of the 50 and the 60. As you can see, I've put it there in a dark blue line. It's not that great of a line, but that's the kind of nearest resistance I can really see. And then as going on from that, so I will stop talking in a second, but moving through the 50 moving average, obviously going up to the 200, that would be my first target profit zone. So you guys know me, I like to do 2/3 or 3/4 of the position at the first target profit zone and let the rest run. And that would be that kind of gap fill around 72.40, which you can see up there in the kind of pink line. And then final point is the RSI is looking good. It's kind of in the middle of the range, could go either way. So I'm sorry if I've ruined any of your points by talking so much, but the mic is yours. The mic is yours.
Oh, I'm going to jump in and say that PayPal offers me a credit card at least once a day. So I like the setup though here. Back to the chart, bouncing off of that trend line, and if it doesn't bounce and where the 20-day moving average is, if it doesn't bounce there, then it's a clear break, right? And so you could trade the downside if you wanted, or you could trade that bounce to the upside. And I think you noted the number one thing for me as well as that 50-day moving average, seeing how the stock will act around that level. So was that like 58 or so? Is that what? Yeah, I think that's what you mentioned as well. Yeah. So that's I love a clean setup like this, where really if it doesn't bounce here, then you just got to be patient and see what happens, right? And it's kind of clean. It's right there at that support level. What would you say, Kay? I'll hand it back over to you, actually.
I mean, for next week, man, it looks really, really promising, especially with a put to call of 0.52 on this one. So over 200,000 open interest on the call side with just over 111,000 on the put side. So definitely looking lot bullish. The implied volatility is also not too crazy. It's only 31%. So seems like I think you can still see higher highs, at least from the trend line, if it keeps bouncing on the trend line.
Yeah. All right, let's see it, Sean. I want to see that trend line hold up.
I want to watch. I might bring it back in a couple of weeks, see how it's done. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yep. So obviously you can get me on X. You can contact me there. I've been doing a few more things on Neo. Obviously, it's been a bit touch and go with them recently, but I'm still fully on their side. On YouTube, I'm going to be streaming Fisker earnings tomorrow night. See what they're doing. See if they're making progress. Look at the numbers, etc. And obviously releasing a video on Neo as well throughout the week, which would be good. Be a bit exciting for those who follow me just for Neo, which I know there's a few of you out there. And finally, the Substack, my newsletter. I've done it on energy this week, and it looks like it could be a good time to add for the long term. So I've got 2 monthly charts and then 1 weekly chart. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And with that, I'll hold you over to Nate.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading that, Sean. I saw, and you mentioned on the energy sector in particular for the long term. Super interested what you had to write there. And definitely check out Sean's YouTube channel if you haven't already. Give him a subscribe and hit the like buttons on his videos, especially if you're a Neo fan. I knew we'd get to Neo, even though we didn't get to Neo. And big short interest in Fisker, right? So that'll be interesting. See how they react around earnings. Definitely.
47%.
Oh. Is it time to short Fisker? That's the question.
I don't know.
It's tricky. It's going to be tricky either way. But
will tell.
Good stuff on Sean's channel. Make sure you guys give him a follow. And while I'm mentioning that, be sure to subscribe here to the Trading Triangle and hit the like button if you haven't already. And we will keep things rolling. For my friends that are interested in Marathon Digital, I'm coming back to it again because I like a trade that works and I like to come back to it if it keeps working, right? So in the past, we talked about Marathon Digital quite a bit because it was trading sideways, consolidating, then broke out nicely. So we got best of both worlds with the covered call action and then a big breakout move where it gave us the signal to get out of the covered calls and then ride that momentum higher. It's a great trade. Now we're getting a nice buildup again, and I added more arrows to these higher lows. And what we need to see here coming up, and I'm hoping it's this week, is a higher high getting above basically 1065. I got 1064 as a level, but we peaked above that a little bit. So we can push to 11 on the next move higher. That would be really positive. We're above the 50-day moving average. There's this volume shelf right here at about 950 that pushed right up into to close the week. RSI is strong in the upper half with plenty of room to run. MACD's moved to the positive side. We're making a nice stair step basically back up into this range that had traded, like I mentioned, for very consistently earlier in the year. So these two levels, 887 and 1064, give or take a couple of pennies, is the range that I'm really interested in, and see if we start bouncing again right here. Kay, I know you'd be interested as far as getting in with cash secured puts. What do you think about the chart and how it's shaping up?
I'm loving it because I also pulled up my chart on Mara, and it is definitely lining up. The option premium is 3.44%. So at $9, if you want to get into it, you'll get about $31 or so.
That's for this Friday's expiration?
That's for 11/17, yes. So for a $9 CSP, you're getting about $31. So that's almost 3.44% for the week.
For a week, yeah. That's why we like this one, right? A lot of premium
I love it.
there.
Exactly.
And then, Sean, I imagine you see breakout.
I do. I also have a question as well. See the two kind of topping tail candles coming down from that 1064 level. You can see both of them have really big volume. Do you know why that is particularly, or is it just because people are shorting at that particular level in a big way, I guess?
I don't think the most recent one. I don't know that I do think there was earnings. Sorry, as I trip over my tongue there. The big gap up and sell off was on earnings. So the initial candle, I'm almost positive, and I don't know why I turned off the earnings markers on this chart. But yeah, that's what that was. The more recent one though is not related. I think it has to do with Bitcoin having a big pop. Bitcoin's made a nice move recently, and
correct,
it's suit, but then kind of sold off.
Correct.
So playing into that with the breakouts, having that level quite as a secure resistance, if we get above it and then come back down and retest it, that for me would be a really strong buy in that case, because then we're going potentially really strongly in the other direction, which is obviously up.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking at, I've said it many times before in the last few weeks as well. In fact, I can see my last week's notes. I've written Mara 1064, so I'm just going to write it down again. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good chart, and the 50 being just there as well. So
Nate, before you jump off, man, this is you need to hear this, right? So I was just looking at the options for a month out, 33 days, right? So 4 weeks out, you're getting $100 on the CSP at $9. If you do the math, it's 2.72% every single week for 4 weeks. So you're looking at almost 10% ROI.
Wow, that's steep even for Marathon here for MARA. That's
exactly $100 for a $900 investment,
so
and you own.
Yeah, I think that either that means there's something to be paying attention to here, because it might have some going on behind the scenes. But the other thing is, you've got, like we said, the Bitcoin rally happening here, and that just might be gaining enough momentum and steam here where folks are piling in to those options. So what do you think? Which one do you think it is? Any guesses?
Well, if it aligns with your Santa rally,
nice.
That could be a 10% in a month. So I don't know. I'm like, I'll have to probably review this even more on Monday and see how that can play.
Well, if anybody has questions on cash secured puts or covered calls, it's a great way to collect cash into your portfolio without what you're giving up is upside. Really, you're capping your upside. So that's why Kay and I talk about it a lot, because yes, the stocks can obviously go the other way, and then the stock itself can lose you money if in a covered call position, for example. And in the cash secured put if you get exercise. But the option is where you're just collecting premiums and offsetting some of that risk. And if it doesn't move the other direction, you get that's 10% in a month that's an insane amount. So obviously you could do the math for the year and it'd be some nice returns. So yeah, we keep looking at Marathon because of those options premiums. So thanks for pointing that out, Kay. All right, keeping it rolling. Arista Networks. This one shook me out, and I'm honestly angry at this stock.
Uh,
So you see that big
how
drop?
did I miss that?
I mean, did you see that? I stared at it for a couple days, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to see where it goes. And then, I looked at it, and it launched right back up to near 315, pushed up to 316.29, and now it's come back down. So now
Oh,
I'm paying closer attention again, right? But yeah, that shakeout there, I was watching it, and thought it was going to hold the 50-day, and when it lost the 50-day, I just completely missed my opportunity here. So that being said, I think we have another one in front of us, just like the market always brings new opportunities day in and day out. And we've got the trend line bounce nicely last Friday, and I'm looking for that to hold and a push to that 216.29 level. Sean, we're looking for a breakout and a retest, and that's where the entry is, right? So I'm going to steal your line there because that's exactly what I'm looking for as a breakout trade here, actually. I think if you get, the trend line to hold, you could take an entry there. I would just not go full port, right? I think bouncing off this trend line, I would wait for the bounce and then maybe take a small position. And then if we get good breakthrough in volume, you could add to it. That's another approach you could take. So what do you think, Sean?
I think the breakout above 216, yeah, sure. But I think even if it breaks the trend line down, because you can see where the trend line kind of broken recently as well, just before the earnings report came out. But that 198 level looks pretty good as well.
It
Because
does.
you can see the amount of resistance that is touched just in this one chart, and that's only a couple of months worth of data. Don't know how far it goes back, probably some all-time highs maybe now. I'm not too sure about the stock generally. But yeah, I can see 198 is a good level for a potential kind of breakout-ish trade as well, as a nice support. But yeah, 216 would be more certain, I think, for it to kind of continue momentum. But I just wanted to note out that 198 level looks pretty good.
Great call. I agree 100%. What do you think, Kay?
man, I am just disappointed that I missed this trade.
Case with me. You just look in hindsight and beat yourself up, I bet, on a lot of trades. I do that. I have to get out of that habit.
If it was a ticker that I would not follow, then I don't feel bad about it, right? But I don't know about the ticker. This is a ticker that I follow all the time, and then you missed.
That's the worst one.
Yeah, see, so you can't get them all. I know we've had some winners here recently. I knocked it out of the park with DraftKings, right? Like, I'm happy about that, so I have to remind myself. It's funny because I'll think about Arista Networks and missing this more than I think about hitting DraftKings.
That's a very good point you brought up, right? I mean, we trade, and you notice that there are so many opportunities. You cannot get all opportunities, and this is why I think trading with a cool mind is important. Just like you have gap ups like this, you'll have gap downs. And if you are in those trades, then you'll have a opposite feeling from how you're feeling.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. Good call. So yeah, I like this trade. I like the 198, Sean. That's an excellent level as well to be paying attention to if this trend line breaks. It's not necessarily all over. There's multiple opportunities in this trade. So something to watch. And I know Kay will keep a closer eye on that. So that's good to know. I'll be on X. I'm on Spaces again this week. I took last week off because of travel, so you can catch me there. I think I'm on 6 or 7 with Wolf Financial this week, and also dropped a newsletter post this morning for Wolf, and we'll be dropping on my newsletter, A Trader's Education, the recording from today. So you'll be able to get all of this if you want to listen to it again or you miss pieces of it. The audio will drop. I have a transcript that drops, and we will be in good shape to stay on top of markets and trade into the coming week. And I'm going to hand it over to you now, Kay. For
Awesome.
What do we got? AMD?
Yes, so we are continuing AMD, and the reason that we want to continue looking at AMD is because if you remember last week, our upside potential was much higher. Now, if you see this little arrow that I have it over here at almost at the end, right after the last candle, so that area is getting smaller and smaller. So you have about like 4-5% upside before we hit that resistance, and that resistance is like long time last June. So it's going to be a very difficult resistance for AMD to break unless you have some kind of a major event, major rally, major news that happens. So the upside potential to AMD is you have to be careful how much it's there. You can see the volume starts to decrease at those levels. So you don't have much buying pressure at those levels. So just because AMD has had like 17% or last 15% and then 8-9% last week doesn't mean it can keep going on. Keep that in mind if you are looking into AMD. But that also sets up, if we get a rejection from that, then the trade again, we can have a play in this place. Also keep an eye on the RSI. RSI is heating up at the 70 level, so we could see a little bit of overheating, but then also some drop happening after that. But yeah, this is so I'm keeping a track on AMD. This aligns very well with your SMH. The strong performance you had was one of the stocks that actually helped the SMH price go up as well. We'll see how Nvidia plays out. Broadcom did a pretty good job. Broadcom also is trying to close its deal with VMware, and not that it's not that it's going to change the market or itself, but if that tends to go on, if that is that goes through, that will also push SMH price. But just keep in mind that AMD's the trend is coming up. The upside potential could be capped at this point in time. If you are trying to get into this play, it's a little bit too late now.
Yeah, you think so? Think it's about done with the recent rally? Going to run out of some steam?
That's what I look like. What do you guys, Sean? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be looking for the moving averages to come up, just to kind of support it, try to get it through that trend line. Obviously, like you said, Nvidia will be a massive catalyst to potentially get it through this trend line as well. Because obviously, once Nvidia posts, for example, good earnings, it probably will trigger this trend line in a positive way. In which case, I'll be looking for a kind of retest and breakout. That's my potential trade going forward. But apart from that, this is one I'm not going to really be looking at. It's on my watch list anyway, but I don't really trade it much anyway. But yeah, moving averages coming up for me be most important.
Nice.
Well, I gotta tell you, Kate, this chart has tricked me a little bit recently, so that's why I might sound a little bit down on AMD. So in a good way. I mean, again, I'm in SMH long term, so that's good. But so let me explain real quick, and then I'll hand it right back to you. There was a descending triangle, wedge, what have you, that broke to the upside in, I think it was in October. Yeah, it was in October. We got the breakout, right? But it didn't. It then just pulled right back and retested right back into the wedge and then took off in November. And now we've got a real breakout happening. I've noticed this in a couple of different stocks where that wedge break occurred to the upside and then things started pulling back. So I'm starting to look for that pattern for another, potential bounce higher. I think Vertex was another one. VRTX did the exact same thing and now is making new highs. So something to pay attention to.
So you're estimating that we could see a little bit of a pullback from the trend line, and then we can break that trend line out in the next couple of weeks, months.
Yeah, well, I like for AMD in particular, I think that it might consolidate here and let the simple moving averages catch up. But what I'm saying is looking for other charts with a similar pattern where it's broken out and then faded a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just look for a retest of that prior wedge and then a takeoff, just like we got here with AMD.
Got it.
I've seen that out there in a couple charts.
That's interesting to note.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Oh, next one is energy. This is ExxonMobil. So I started liking this one again. You saw that Exxon actually ran up to 120. And generally, I don't like when the stocks run up too much. I tend to get out of the trade, but I still on my watch list. Now, the reason I started liking this one, we had this gap down on the daily chart. You can see where I have pointed says gap down. So most likely, generally, when you have gap ups or gap downs, stocks generally tend to fill that gap up pretty soon. It's not a guarantee, but most of the times it happens. RSI is also trending at a pretty low, so it's very oversold. But why is it happening? If you trade energy, you will see that all energy stocks were hit the hardest. Same thing with Oxy, even though had a decent earnings, beat both top line and bottom line. The stock is down. SLB we are trading is also down. ExxonMobil, Chevron, pretty much everything is down because of the demand. The demand is lower. As of, I think August was the lowest, and then I think November is also the lowest. So pretty much, you have hit the lowest demand. This is also tied up with the China's post-COVID recovery, which it did not come out as strongly as people were expecting. But on the good note is that you can see that it had on the daily, it bounced from this downtrend line, and on the weekly, it was a clear bounce. It did not break through on the weekly side. So this now starts to look nice setup for getting into a trade again. At 101, 102, you will notice there's a lot more volume for people to buy in. And 99.56 has been a very strong resistance for a while now on this particular stock. So something that I am starting to get back and interested into ExxonMobil. Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, I think I'm long on ExxonMobil. But from a trade standpoint, I think this is a good opportunity to start looking at it.
I like it. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I like it. I think for me, getting into this now would be my aim, and then having a fairly short stop loss. Simple enough for me. If it triggers, it triggers. And if it goes up, then great. I'll manage the position and raise my stop loss accordingly. But apart from that, you hit every single nail on the head there, okay? I can't really say much else.
Kate's crushing it as usual. I'm hoping that, and hope's not a great trade, but I like the setup with the technicals. I'm hoping that we get a nice bounce here, because energy, yeah, like we were talking about earlier, it just did not do what we were hoping it would do, and like XLE dropped below 84, which was, I did not want to see it even get below 85. So it's something worth paying attention to, and I think the setup here is really nice. So definitely like the trend line location and the fact that we're getting the weekly looking nice and clean. So I think for a short-term trade, what Sean said, keep a tight stop loss.
Yep.
If energy sells off, then you got that protecting. But soar or crash is the question from one of our loyal listeners out there. What would you say, soar or crash from here, Kay? Feeling positive?
If you're long, then energy is soaring, right? If you're long investing, if you're trading, I don't think we should use the word soar or crash when you're trading.
I like it.
You should use the word stop loss.
See, spoken like somebody who's been there, done that. I agree with you. I like the long term positioning for energy. And again, Sean wrote about this in his newsletter, so check that out. I'm definitely interested to hear more from Sean in the energy space.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks, Kay.
We do have a comment on YouTube, but not CTRA. Anyone know what that one is?
CTRA.
I don't follow it personally that closely, but apparently they're doing quite well in terms of energy.
Coterra Energy. Okay, never. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. But yeah, it's a strong buy. It's a buy from Wall Street. Very interesting. We'll take a look at
your watch list.
So nice chart. I just pulled that up on the side here, and if you were to draw a trend line, it's bouncing right off of that trend line. So CTRA, that's something maybe I'll start digging into a little bit. Add it to the watch list. Thanks for that, Two Hawk. That's great stuff.
Beautiful.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Kay.
Appreciate it. And again, you can find me on Twitter as well. I do provide weekly, daily updates on Twitter. If there's earnings, I will generally see me posting my trade updates as well over there. You can follow me there. YouTube, I do weekly trade results. So a lot of tickers we talk about here. I also track other tickers as well with my trade updates. So be there as well. And then just like Sean and Nate, I also write. I don't write as often as these guys, but I do write. So feel free to follow me there as well on Substack.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Good stuff from both of these guys. I just try to keep up, honestly, week in and week out. And by the way, if you are listening or watching on X, drop a comment. Let us know what tickers you might be interested in, what you like, what you didn't like. And that's a new thing we're trying out, getting out on multiple platforms. And I think it's working well. Always find us on YouTube at the Trading Triangle, of course. And this week, I'm excited to get back to it, you guys. I didn't get to trade enough last week. Looking for good opportunities. And I think that the Arista Networks is definitely, won this square in my sights. I've got DraftKings still holding there, but we're at this key level, needs to break out. So, and then a bunch of other holdings, and a couple in energy in particular. Kay, we were talking about Energy Transfer and VNOM are two holdings. So I've got a lot on my brain. I'm probably going to have to take it slow Monday and ease into the week. But what we've got CPI and
core inflation numbers coming out. Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of good information coming. And if you're like me and you're anxious to trade, just make sure you take a deep breath first before you start getting into it. But how about you, Sean? I know you're a little under the weather. You going to get into the trading this week still?
Oh, absolutely.
Doesn't hold you back.
Nothing's going to stop me about that. No, no. You kind of took the words out of my mouth there. I was going to talk a little bit about CPI and PPI and just kind of be cautious of the volatility around that. They're kind of big events. The market moves very, very quickly. Sometimes it can be very choppy. And for example, I've been stuck in that before. So you put a buy position at the top, and then you put a sell position at the bottom, and you keep doing that, and you just keep losing money. So just eliminate that completely. Just don't trade. Simple as that, really. If you're feeling a little bit hesitant. But for me, yeah, looking at Zon, looking at energies, but that's it for me. Obviously, subscribe. But I might just leave Kay to do that for me.
Nice. What about you, Kay? That's a handoff to you.
So please subscribe to the channel. This helps us push the content to more people. And I think everybody can benefit from at least, learning more. Like we learned a lot. We learned about CTRA today. I did not even know about that ticker. So, just like, subscribe, and push out to different people. And I think I agree with you guys over here. There's nothing much to add. Yes, I will be trading. It's like, unless there is a reason why not to, definitely trade.
Yeah, of course. Got to stay active and paying attention to the markets. And with all of these wise words from these two gentlemen and myself, I hope you guys had a great time tuning in to the Trading Triangle. We'll be back next week. And then throughout the week, be sure to check out the different channels we've got going. And don't be shy. Drop a question or a comment below, and we'll get back to you. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate your guys' charts this week, and I'll see you out there.